Hello, LREA members. It's your president, Teresa Knapp Gordon, with your second Fireside Chat. And today we're going to talk a little bit about our governing documents and what is included in each one of those documents. So, a lot of you, as we have visited the schools, have come in and told us that you've been told that LREA no longer exists, or that LREA no longer has any power, or that we no longer have contracts. All of those things are false. We do still have contracts. We do still have power. You do still have a president and a board. We do still have staff that negotiates and fights for you. And we do still have several governing documents, actually, that govern the way we do business in Little Rock School District every single day. So I wanted to go over those with you today just to help you understand all of the different things that we use when we are establishing policy or negotiating policy, as well as when you ask us a question and we give you an answer. These are the documents that we use. So, first and foremost, we have what's called a professional negotiated agreement, or the P&A. And sometimes we use that term interchangeably with the contract because we've called those the contracts for a long time. Prior to state takeover in 2015, we actually had several contracts. We had one for the teachers or certified staff. We had one for the psychological examiners. We had one for the custodians, one for transportation, and one for security. When the state took over and our contract expired, we negotiated a new, smaller contract. And part of the agreement in that contract, because, for example, this is the teacher's contract from 2012 to 2015. We used to negotiate 3-year contracts so that we didn't have to go through the tedious process of negotiating every single year. And as you can see, this one is 92 pages long, and it has a lot of history in it. And all of them were about that size. Now our P&A is this document, and as you can see, it's quite a bit smaller. It is actually 12 pages long, and this document covers all employees certified and classified that are non-administrative employees. When we negotiated that smaller P&A, we negotiated it with the agreement that we would continue to honor the old negotiated P&As until the language that was not included in the new smaller P&A was incorporated into a personnel policy manual. We have worked very hard to make that happen. As a matter of fact, the certified personnel policy manual was completed and ratified by the membership, but Commissioner Key refused to sign off on it without some editing. And at this point, we still need to seek permission from the membership to go back in to work on those editing changes. So you have the professional negotiated agreement. You also have state laws, and the AEA, the state organization, puts together these booklets. There's one for certified and one for classified, and these include all of the laws that pertain to public education employees in the state of Arkansas. A lot of our governing practices are in these laws as well. So when somebody says, well, you don't have that in the P&A anymore, So you can't do that. That's not necessarily the truth, because a lot of the things that were in our PNA are also in state law. So you do still have the right to do those things. Plus, Mr. Poore, our superintendent, has said that we are still honoring that old language until we get this personnel policy manual signed, especially for those things that are in the personnel policy manual, which includes most of what was in those old contracts. Then you also have Little Rock School District School Board policy, and as you can see, this is a thick document. And there's policy for certified and policy for classified. The LREA worked with the attorney on these policies, so we have a lot of our language in these policies as well. And these were approved by the CAB and by the commissioner already, so those are in place. And then finally, you have this document, which is the Little Rock School District Employee Handbook that was adopted in 2013 when Dexter Suggs was here. And this is probably the last document we refer to, because a lot of the things that are in here are contradicted by items in the other documents which supersede this. So those are the governing documents. A lot of the rights that you had prior to the state takeover, you still have. For example, one of the ones that comes up a lot is the right of an educator to remove a student from their classroom if they're causing a disruption to their learning or to their teaching in their classroom. And that was in the old PNA, and we referred to it as the bar, and it gave teachers the right to exclude a student from the classroom, and the student could not come back to the classroom once the teacher barred that student until a parent conference was held and there was a plan to ensure that the student would no longer be a disruption. And that bar clause, even though it's not in our new PNA, it is in state law. And so don't let anybody tell you that you no longer have the right to remove a student who is disrupting class, because you do have that right, and something must be done. A conference must be held in order for that student to return to your class. It hurts all of the students whenever you have that situation going on. And our goal is to educate all of our students. And if there's a student that's causing a problem where you're not able to teach, that student should be excluded until it is reiterated with that student and with his or her parents that school is about learning, and that's what's going to happen in the classroom. So that's just one example. Planning time. We had above and beyond planning time, the planning time amount required by law in our PNA. We still do have more planning time than the 200 minutes required by law. However, the 200 minutes are individual planning time, which means those are sacred. Those are your planning time to plan individually or with your group if you choose to. It's your time to use as you need to use it for parent conferences, or to call parents and talk to them, or to plan your lessons, to do whatever it is that you need to do during that time. But those are your 200 minutes. Now, let's say that you have 400 minutes of planning time because you get 60 minutes of art, 60 minutes of music, 60 minutes of P, and then you have 150 minutes either before or after school. Well, then anything above that 200 minutes can be captured for meetings or PLCs, or those other things, and that's at the elementary level. The middle school and high schools have a little bit different agreement because their duty includes subbing during one of their preps, and so they don't have the same requirements that elementary does as far as um, having to go to meetings and that type of thing. They do still have some meetings, but obviously it's not while they're subbing in a classroom. So those are some things. I want to point out to you, one of the most important things in our P&A is this clause that says recognition right here, and that's the number one in our P&A. And that is important because it gives the Little Rock Education Association the exclusive right to be your representative. Okay? What that means is that only the Little Rock Education Association has the right to represent you and negotiate on your behalf in the Little Rock School District. We're the only ones that can come in and recruit members within our district. We are the only ones who can use school mail to communicate with you, or school emails to communicate with you. Those are negotiated rights that we negotiated at the table, and no one else should be using those. We are the only ones that can come in and have a meeting on school property with employees, because we are the exclusive representative. And that's an important right for us to have, and it's why we continue to represent the majority of Little Rock School District employees. So that's important. There also, I want to talk just a little bit about teacher fair dismissal and public school employee fair hearing and the waivers to those two items, because there also seems to be some confusion about what was agreed to in negotiations. And I covered this a little bit in the first Fireside Chat, but I want to make sure that I continue to address it because I continue to hear misinformation about it. I want to be clear that the LREA and its negotiations team never agreed to support a waiver. The directive from Commissioner Key, when he refused to sign the first ratified copy of the P&A, the directive that he sent to Mr. Poore included language that stated that we would that we would say that we would support a waiver of it. We did not agree to that language, and it is not currently in the contract. What the language says is this. It says, nothing in this agreement shall limit LRSD's statutory right to petition the State Board of Education for waivers pursuant to ACA 615-103, or for the State Board of Education to take any action that may be permitted under any applicable provision of an ACA 615-2916, including but not limited to a waiver of the Arkansas Teacher Fair Dismissal Act and the Public School Employee Fair Hearing Act. That is what the law says. And basically, we agreed to put in the document what the law says. We did not put in the document that we support the waiver, because we don't support the waiver. We would never support any waiver of your rights to due process. What we were told is that Commissioner Key was going to apply for the waiver of teacher fair dismissal and Arkansas Public Employee Fair Hearing whether we had a contract or not. So it didn't really matter to him whether we put it in here or not, he was going to do it anyway. And there was no way, we had no legal right to stop him from doing it, because the law says he can apply for the waiver as our school board. And so basically that's what we said in the contract, is that he can apply for the waiver, and there's nothing we can do about it, basically, is what that says. So, but it does not say that we support it. We did not support it. We spoke against it. We sat through the whole meeting when it was done, and we negotiated other language within the contract that we feel helps to protect you in the case that those laws were waived, which we knew they would be. So that's where we are on that. So please encourage or talk to your colleagues and tell them LREA did not support a waiver. LREA does not support a waiver now, and we will continue to defend your due process rights. So the next part of the contract talks about our obligations as an association, as well as the Little Rock School District obligations as the district. And basically that's just about negotiations and a strike policy. So basically we agree to negotiate to get a contract, and we agree that during the length of the contract we will not participate in any curtailment of work or restriction of services or interference with operations. In other words, we will not have a job action. The next one has to do with joint committees, and this number 5 means that whenever there is something that involves administrative practices and procedures that affect employees, we agree that a joint committee will be formed to handle that. For example, professional development. There's a joint committee for professional development. There has been for years and years, so that teachers have a say in their professional development calendar. Usually the committees exist of 5 teachers and 5 administrators, or the appropriate staff. Let's say that maybe it's a committee addressing library media centers, then it would be library media specialists on the committee, and support staff like library media clerks. So the cause of the committee determines who's going to be on it, and the president of LREA, which is me, appoints those members, and then the superintendent appoints the members on the district side. The next, number 6 in the contract, has to do with salaries, and this has to do with setting your pay dates on the 15th and 30th of each month. It also says if the payday falls on a Saturday or Sunday, you get paid on the Friday prior. It talks about your summer pay, and that you can take your summer pay in May instead of getting paid throughout the summer. Talks about extra pay assignments and the stipend process. Internal substitutes and how they're paid, like when you have to cover another teacher's classroom outside of your duty time. If you're required to work an additional day, let's say that your principal wants to offer professional development that's kind of outside the box, and the only day the person can come is on a Saturday, and they want you to come to that. If you are asked to come and you agree to come, they have to pay you $25 an hour. If they mandate that you come, if they say that you must come to the meeting on a Saturday, they must pay you your daily rate of pay to come to that professional development, or the percentage of your daily rate of pay for the time that you're in there. So that's important. The next one is the National Board for Professional Teaching Standards. and it has to do with release time to work on your portfolio as well as the stipend that the district pays for that. The next one is benefits, and it has to do with setting the amount that the district pays towards your health insurance. The amount that your district pays towards your health insurance is $275 per month, and that continues until we negotiate something different. The district also provides you with $10,000 in term life insurance. And then you can, of course, add on to that if you would like to purchase more. And that comes out of payroll deduct. And then the third item in your benefits is payroll deductions, which is a negotiated benefit. And it states that the district will allow payroll deductions for dues, for group insurance premiums, for credit unions, for United Way, and for annuities, which is like VALIC. And so that is an important negotiated benefit as well. Sick leave is next, sick leave, personal leave. And it talks about when you can use sick leave and the rules governing sick leave and all of that. Talks about how you have to notify the subsystem, 2 hours before the start of your day, and you also have to notify your building administrator. Talks about the number of sick days you get each year and how many you can accumulate. And then it also talks about family and medical leave and personal leave. And there's a little bit of confusion about personal leave too, so let me cover that. Previously, we had 2 days of personal leave that you could take without any penalty, and then you had 2 days of personal leave deduct sub pay. And those days you could take, and then they would take the cost of the sub out of your paycheck. We agreed to give up the 2 days of deduct sub pay in exchange for not being restricted on when we can take personal leave. So if you remember in the old contract, you couldn't take personal leave before or after a student holiday, and there were a couple of other restrictions. Those restrictions no longer exist. You can take personal leave anytime. And I just want to ensure that you understand that you are not asking for permission to take personal leave. You are notifying your administrator. And you have to notify your administrator 24 hours in advance if you are planning to take personal leave. Again, you are not asking for permission. You're not asking for it to be approved or denied. You are just simply notifying them. So you could send them an email that says, I am taking personal leave. I plan to take a personal leave day on Friday, January 18th, 2019. It does also address inclement weather. So if a situation arose where, let's say you live in a neighborhood where you couldn't get out if there were ice on the road, you could take personal leave to cover that instead of sick leave. It also contains this part also contains the agreement that your supervisor or your administrator can allow you to be absent for up to half a day without taking leave. So let's say that you have a doctor's appointment at 8 o'clock in the morning and you know it's going to take probably 45 minutes to an hour. You can talk with your principal, and your principal can approve for you to go to that doctor's appointment and then come on to work and just arrange for somebody to cover your classroom for that hour without you having to put in for leave. Because there's no reason for you to take a half a day of leave to be gone for an hour. But your principal does have to approve that. The next one is jury duty. Of course, if you're called for jury duty, you have to be absent for that. And that just covers that. And then association leave, which is leave that I grant or I ask for in the case of if I need you to go to a conference or if I need you to do some association work or something like that, I can use that at my discretion. And then there's extended leave, which is what I'm on to be association president. So I still work for the district. I still get paid through the district, but the association reimburses the district for my cost of salary and benefits. The same thing for AEA president, or if one of our members were elected to be NEA president, they are entitled to a leave of absence for the term of their presidency, and they get paid through the district, so they continue to have their benefits and collect and accrue their retirement, but but the association reimburses the district for that cost. So, and then there's a C in this extended leave policy, and it's about extended leave, and it says that that information is available in the personnel policy manuals, because obviously we thought that the personnel policy manuals would be complete. The next section is about the test system, which is the teacher evaluation system. And we felt like it was important to put this information, this new language in here, because we feel like tests is what should be used. Was the state law that's what's used to evaluate teachers. But we also wanted to make sure that this language was in the contract, because it has to do with your due process. You should either be evaluated through tests as a means of determining whether you're going to be renewed or not for certified teachers, or progressive discipline would be the other way in which disciplinary actions could be taken. The next section deals with grievances and your rights to file grievances, and the association will assist you on that if you feel like your rights are violated, either your legal rights under the law or your rights under the contract or board policy. You can file a grievance with LREA representation. Now that representation is for members, and it extends to our members because of the cost associated with it for legal services. Your building rep at level 1 can represent members and non-members, but after that, it's something that our members pay for. And then, of course, if you're recommended for termination, or let's say a code of ethics violation, something like that happens, something serious, you would receive legal services through the association to defend you. So all of those pages have to do with the grievance process and how all of that works. There's level 1, level 2, and level 3, with level 3 being the most serious. And then the next part is new language also that we put in, and it is about due process. And it talks about ensuring due process for all employees. And the agreement is that no employee shall be disciplined, reduced in rank or compensation, reprimanded, deprived of any professional advantage, or recommended for non-renewal or termination without just cause. And so that we felt like that was very important language to put into the contract at this time. It does also say that serious professional competency deficiencies or misconduct can result in immediate recommendation for termination. So if something were egregious, some kind of behavior were egregious, there is a means to take care of that. The next one has to do with teaching assignments, and it says teaching assignments will be made in accordance with the law. A common misconception in Little Rock School District, because we are such a big district and we have so many school sites, is that you work for the school. For example, I worked for Jefferson, so Jefferson was my school site. But the reality is you are a district employee. You're not a Jefferson employee. So you technically work for the Little Rock School District, and you can be reassigned at any time to any place. Now that's not ideal because you don't want to make people unhappy by putting them somewhere they don't want to be, but it can happen, and in some cases it does happen if there's a need. So that's important to understand as well. Is that you work for Little Rock School District and you are a district employee. You're not a site employee, which is a good thing in a lot of cases, especially when buildings close and that type of thing. And then the next part has to do with verification of membership, and that we have to have more than 50%. Actually, we have to have 50% plus one in order to qualify to to continue our recognition. And then the term is next, the dates that this contract is current, and it's from November 1st to October 31st of 2019, which is next year. However, we did put new language in here that says that as long as we are at the table negotiating, this contract will not expire until a new contract is reached, and that was important new language to put into. And then the final one or this new language is incorporation, and what that does is it ties your P&A and what's in the P&A to your individual contract, and makes them dependent upon each other. And then the last one is integration, and that just says that the P&A supersedes and replaces all other agreements between the LRSD and any non-administrative certified or non-certified group. So the P&A is the most important document for obvious reasons. And then, like I said, you have law. These books are available at AEA. They create them every time we have a legislative session. So the legislative session started this week, which means that when this one wraps up, there will be new booklets created with the new laws that are passed, as well as the old laws, so that you can use these for easy reference. But these are available now at the AEA. If you would like to have one, you could call over there and they'll send you one, or you could stop by and pick one up. And they're pretty great references to the Arkansas laws. Now, obviously, we have some things that are above the law in our district because we negotiate, but it's a pretty solid reference for other things. And then the board policies are online. If you go online under the September 27th board meeting, not the CAB, not the Community Advisory Board meeting, but the school board meeting, you will see those on the agenda, and you can peruse those at your leisure, because there are a lot of things there, but a lot of it is our language. A lot of it supports our language, so that's good to know too. And then of course the employee handbook exists as well. So that's our Fireside Chat for this Friday. I hope you guys enjoy your weekend. Have a great 3-day weekend. Get out and do something that supports Dr. King's dream. And remember that, remember what he fought for and what he stood for, and commit to doing the same, because we are under threat. Our public education system is under threat, and we need to be vigilant. So I encourage you, if you haven't been, go to Memphis and tour the Civil Rights Museum, which includes the motel where Dr. King was assassinated. Take some time to talk to your children about Dr. King and his dream. And like I said, have a great weekend. Try to stay warm, and I will see you next time. Thank you so much.